it's Miss Humphrey back with another math lesson. Gosh, it's a rainy one today. I don't know about you guys, but all night long I was hearing rain on my window. And when I woke up today, it's super cloudy and dark in my apartment. But it's days like today that I usually just want to curl up with a coffee and a blanket. But I'm really thankful that I have a lesson to teach you today because it gives me some purpose, some drive for my day. So today we're going to talk about common denominator. And common denominator is super interesting. What we know about the word common is that it means same. It means equal to. So when we think of common denominators, it's actually pretty simple. It's a common multiple of the denominator of two or more fractions. And all that means is we're going to find a similar denominator so that two problems have the same denominator, two fractions have the same denominator. And the reason we do this is because it makes it so much easier to compare which fraction's bigger, which fraction's smaller, and just to compare in general fractions when they have the same denominator. Because only when fractions have the same denominator can you follow rules like the larger number or the smaller number means that it's bigger or smaller. So let's look at an example here. It says to take a piece of paper. So if you have paper at home, you can do this. I'm just going to draw a shape that we are going to call my piece of paper. And even that shape's not perfect, but I'll try one more time. And it says to fold the paper in half. And then in addition, because we're trying to compare here, we're trying to compare 1/2, I'll zoom in also, 1/2 and 1/3. So I cut my paper in half, and then I'm also going to cut it into thirds. And that tells me that the amount that they have in common is 6. So if I were to color in, we wanted 1/2. So if I color in 1/2 of this, I'm going to do it in the color green. So I'm going to say 1/2 is green. So half of this would be this whole side, which is equal to how many 6s? 1/2 is actually equal to 3 6s. And that's something we practiced before. You would multiply both the top and the bottom by 3. Do you guys remember that from a few days ago? And then I'm looking for a common denominator between the numbers 1/2 and 1/3. So 1/3, if I'm looking at it in 6s, 1/3 is actually 2 6s. So 1/3 equals 2 6. So now looking at these two, looking at 3 6 and 2 6, which one is bigger? Which one is more of the whole? And it's definitely 3 6 because 3 of these pieces is more than 2 of those equal pieces. Think about if you had a pizza, right? And I ate 2 pieces of the pizza. There were 6 whole pizza pieces. I ate 2 pieces and you ate 3. Who ate more pieces? It's definitely 3. And the reason that we can compare these two fractions is because right here, they have this common denominator. They share the same size shapes. We cannot compare fractions very easily if they don't have that common denominator. So let's do some math to find some ways without a picture how to find the common denominator. So let's start here. We're looking at 1/2 and 1/4. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to list multiples of 2. So I know it goes 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'm going to stop there for now. And then I'm going to list the multiples of 4. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. I'll stop there also. And I'm looking, if we go back to this definition, I'm looking for a common multiple. And we identified common multiples during our multiples unit when we were back at school together. So this should be a great refresher. I want to look for the smallest common multiple. That's just my personal preference. And they don't share 2, but they do share 4. So that means that a common multiple between them is 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 1/2, and I want it to equal something that has a denominator of 4. I want it to equal something that has a denominator of 4. So what do I do to 2 for it to equal 4? 2 times 2. And whatever I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. So if I did 2 times 2 on the bottom, I'm going to do 1 times 2 on the top. So 1/2 equals 2/4. They're the same exact thing. They're the same exact thing. And I have my common multiple of 4, and this one already has a common multiple of 4. So the answer to the question would be 2/4 and 1/4. So now, seeing this information, what's bigger, 1/2 or 1/4? Definitely 1/2, because 1/2 is 2 of the pieces, and 1/4 is only 1 of the pieces, and I'm getting that information here. 1/2 is 2 of the 4 pieces, and 1/4 is just 1 of the 4 pieces. Do you see how it's easier to compare the fractions when they have the same denominator? Let's try another one. This one says 3/4 and 5/8. So I'm going to start listing 4. And sometimes I like to do them like this. 8. Do they have anything in common yet? Nope. 8. Oh, I can stop because I already found a common multiple, which is 8. So what that means is I'm going to write 3/4, and I want it to have a denominator of 8. So what do I need to multiply 4 by to get to 8? 4 times 2. So whatever I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. So if I did 4 times 2 on the bottom, I have to do 3 times 2 on the top, which is 6/8. So my answer is 6/8, which again, remember, 6/8 is an equal fraction to 3/4. I'm just putting it in a form where it has a common denominator with the number I'm trying to compare it to. So 6/8 is equal to 3/4. So 6/8 and 5/8. So now, knowing that, which one is bigger? And it's definitely, that's crazy. It's definitely that 6. The 6/8 is bigger, which means 3/4 is bigger than 5/8 because they're equivalent. They mean the same thing. So having that common denominator, I can tell 6 pieces of the 8-slice pizza is definitely more than 5. I'm going to give you one that I want you to try. Pause your screen now. I hope you actually paused and you're coming back to check your work. The first thing you do is you list the multiples. So my multiples of 3, the first one's 3, and my multiples of 4, the first one's 4. So far, nothing in common. Then I have 6 and 8, still nothing in common. Then I have 9 and 12, still nothing in common. Then I have 12. Ooh, I can stop because I see 12 and 12. That means they can have a common denominator of 12. Now this one's a little bit different than the ones we did up here, only because the ones up here we only had to transform one of our fractions to look like the denominator of the other one. This one, neither of them have a denominator of 12. So I'm going to go ahead and do both. So I have 1/3, and I want it to equal something with a denominator of 12. So what do I multiply 3 by to get 12? And it's going to be 4. what do I multiply 1 by then? Also 4. Whatever you do on the bottom, you gotta do on the top. So 1 times 4 is 4. I'm gonna do the same thing. So remember, 4/12 is equal to 1/3. I'm just representing it with a equivalent fraction that has a common denominator. We have so much vocabulary this unit. Then we have 1/4, and again, I want it to have a denominator of 12. So I need to multiply it by 3. And whatever I do on the bottom, I must do on the top. So 1 times 3 is 3. So that is equal to 1/4. It's an equivalent fraction. We just gave it a common denominator of 12. So I'm going to write those down. 4/12 and 3/12, sorry. And which of those is bigger? It's this one right here, because it has that 4. That 4 pieces of a 12-piece pizza is bigger than 3. So that tells me 1/3 is bigger than 1/4. I'm going to post a Google form for you guys to try some of these on your own, as well as some practice on Khan Academy. If you have any questions, because this is tricky and there's a lot of vocabulary, let me know and I'll host a Google Meet for the class and we can kind of go through some problems together. I hope you guys have a great day, even though it's rainy. Maybe do a puzzle or do something inside with your family, like cook a meal. I got to talk to a ton of you yesterday during our SEL lesson, and it seems like a lot of you are baking and cooking. So if you do bake or cook anything, post a picture and maybe even break the food up into fractions and show me how you can find common denominator with your food, okay? I will see you guys later for a science lesson. Bye.